I do believe now we're going to be traveling to Gambia.
Yeah.
Discuss alkaline diets and vegan diets and some more great things. So please apprise us of what we have in store for the second segment of our meeting today.
All right. So we have our wonderful sister Ehwunah. We spoke for an hour yesterday. She's so full of passion for what she does. Has a lot of anecdotal experience and training in what she's going to share with you today. I'm going to hand over to you, sis. You're more than capable of giving us a little bit of background on yourself, and let's go into it as we discuss. So, spiritual injection. Welcome, our sister Ehwunah.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you first of all as well to Aziz, because Aziz has been quite instrumental.
Wow, Aziz.
Yes. Yes. Aziz Juma is it's because of him that I've been introduced to this platform. And I could say, similar to what Olu said, that he's given before he's received. He's helped me a lot in terms of he's always telling me, you need to go digital, So thank you, Aziz, and I'm glad you're in the background there. I wasn't sure that you would be there, but I'm happy that you're there because you're always supportive and always sharing, so give thanks. He's definitely exemplary in our community for for walking the walk.
Absolutely.
So my name is Ehwunah. I've relocated to the Gambia in April of this year. I decided to exodus out of the UK with everything that was going on. I've been talking about it for many, many years and eventually just realized that it was time. So I've come back home to the Gambia. I'm originally from the Gambia, born here in 1960. I'm back here eventually. I'm a naturopath, wellness coach. I'm also a doula. I've been a doula for 30 odd years. And in 2009, I met somebody called Darren Bipo of Health Restore. He's a raw veganist, and he trained me. I came into this health life, this natural way of living, in terms of, all you said is so true, that food is the vehicle. It definitely is, because that's something we can't get away from. We have to eat. No matter how much we may even choose to fast, we're going to have to eat at some time. And in our community, food has always been the vehicle. We gather around food. We solve most of our problems around food. We come together in that way. And Darren Bipo, being a raw foodist, I met him in 2009. To this day, we still say, how did that happen? How did I get your number? How did it appear on my desk at work? We don't know. We have to say it was the ancestors that did that. And what brought me to this way of living and to doing what I do was that I've always been interested in natural health since I was a youngster in the 60s. Any program that came on TV when it wasn't popular. I was saying to Sylvina yesterday that I can remember I must have been about 8 or 9. Maybe a lot of the listeners are too young to remember in the 60s. There was a program called Nationwide that used to be on at 6 o'clock. And they came on and they mentioned that brown bread was healthier than white. Straight away, I went out when my mum sent me out to buy some bread. I went looking for brown bread. I lived in Harlesden. I was gone for about an hour. That should have taken me about 10 minutes and came back and lied to my mum and said, they never had any white, so I had to buy the brown. Got in trouble for that. But I've always been interested in natural health. Anything that I heard I heard and researched that was good for me, I live by this principle. You don't have to like it. You just have to eat it if it's good for you. And that's what I live by. But, I've come to realize, as Olu said, you have to meet people where they're at. That's not necessarily going to work for everybody. So you meet the people where they're at and you bring them on the journey. What I've found is when people start to benefit from changing their lifestyles, changing their diet, changing their mindset, that tends to be the impetus, the inspiration, and the motivation to keep going. So how I came to meet, when I met Darren, what had happened is that in 2008, my mother passed away. And in 2009, I started researching about, her high blood pressure. She'd been on high blood pressure medication for 20 odd years or more. And she was living out here in the Gambia. And getting her medication was always difficult. We would have to go to unscrupulous doctors in the UK to get it sent out to my mum here because she couldn't get it out here. we didn't know that we was helping to poison and actually kill my mother. We didn't know that. So when my mother died and I did the research and realized that, you know, had I known then what I know now, and my mum being a maverick, she would have given it a try. She could potentially have still been here. So that sent me into a deeper quest of research of, you know, how do we look after ourselves and how do we apply some of the things that I was learning about eating differently, about making food our medicine. I was out here in 2009 for my mum's 1 year, meditating a lot. We'd been fasting myself. I had a group of about 50 odd of us fasting, doing a great fast. And we were doing really well. In fact, there was 2 of my friends that were diagnosed with cancer. One had early stage prostate cancer, and my other friend, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she'd had 3 previous bouts with different types of cancers as well. And both of those friends said that they weren't going to go the allopathic route. So I'd already been researching and found this great fast and realized that you could cure almost any disease just by fasting and alkalizing the body. And if you think about it, if you're only eating one type of food, that's known as a monofast. So the body can really focus on what you're giving it, especially when it's alkaline. So I had about 50 odd of us fasting in that way. At the time, I was in a business in Brixton where I used to run seminars on Fridays, and we had this fasting group where it started off with just 4 of us, the 2 of my friends who were sick, and myself and my daughter who joined them as support. The 4 of us started fasting together. By the time, that was in February, by the time we got to May, when I came to Gambia, there was 50 odd of us doing it, having fantastic results. Cancers were cured, high blood pressure was cured. I didn't need to wear my reading glasses anymore. Heavy periods had gone. There were so many different testimonials as to what was happening, what we was experiencing just by eating in this way, drinking a lot of water. That's all we did. We just had grapes and water. And we started that in February of 2009. And if anyone remembers, that was the year when the snow just hit. We had snowstorms. The roads were icy, buses were sliding, transport came to an end. It was freezing cold, and that's all we was eating. So we were so determined, we were having to wear layers of clothing because just on that food alone, you felt the cold. So by the time I came to Gambia for a week for my mum's 1 year anniversary, we had got to a kind of stalemate where we had all been on this great fast and were having all these fantastic results. But where do we go from there? Everybody was looking at me and the expert. I had no idea. I just knew that this is what we're going to do. I don't know what we do next. So while I was out here, I was meditating. My brother gave me a book called The Tao of Health, Sex and Longevity by somebody called Daniel Reed. He spoke and suggested some other authors to look at in terms of great fasting, in terms of other aspects to natural health, which I looked into. And I'd always, many years ago, been reading Dr. Layla Africa and others of our icons from our community, Queen Afua and such. And Dr. Layla Africa had always insisted that, you know, we have to get rid of the white foods out of our diet, the processed carbs. You know, he would say if it's white, it's not right. So that would be things like your sugars, so your white sugar, well, sugars, flour, rice, white potatoes, those kind of foods. So anyway, I came back still pondering, you know, where do we go from here? Let me keep researching. And I came back and on my desk, there was this flyer, which was Dr. Layla Africa, African Holistic Health. Somebody just said they didn't catch the name of the book. Oh, sorry. The book that I mentioned, first of all, was The Tao of Health, Sex and Longevity by Daniel Reed. That's a European author. Nowhere near as in depth, nowhere near as in good. He just gave me pointers in terms of the Great Fast and also in terms of massage as well. But the books that the authors and the books that are most prolific for me would be Dr. Layla Africa, definitely. That's always been my icon, and I was so happy to meet him in the flesh and actually interview him. And that was in fact where I first met Aziz. I don't know if Aziz will remember. It was in Cricklewood when Dr. Layla Africa came with his wife, Dr. Stevens. That's where I first met Aziz and his family, as it happens. So anyway, I came back and on my desk there was this flyer, and I was there racking my brains. Where do we go from here? We're all fasting, we can't live on grapes forever. and we can't go back to what we was doing before. What do we do? Also, the downside of what we had been doing for that length of time, and what most of us that had been doing it from the beginning, from February up until May, we were getting constipated. That was one of the worst things about it. At first it was the opposite, but then we got into this point of constipation, just didn't know where to go. And I prayed on it, you know, spoke to my mum and came back, and there was this flyer on the desk. It was from Health Restore, Darren Beeper. So I called him, told him what we've been doing. There's 50 odd of us who are fasting, and we've come to this stalemate. And he said to me, great fasting, you know about that? I said, yes. He said, you've got 15 people fasting. How did you manage to do that? I said, I didn't say 15. I said 50 plus. He said, how did you manage to do that? And it was a group effort. This is the thing about community. This is one of the things about working as a group, that we supported each other. We could exchange stories. We could exchange solutions. We could just support each other and make sure that if we felt like giving up, we kept each other going. And we met in person in the space that I had every Friday. Some of us were sitting on the floor. There might even be some people who were listening who were there. We would sit on the floor. We would, you know, every Friday without fail, we met up. So I invited Darren when I told him what our experience had been, and he said, but you did your cleansing first, right? I said, no, we didn't know anything about cleansing first. We just knew that we had to eat these grapes. We was eating we were supposed to eat about 3 pounds to approximately 2 to approximately 4 pounds of grapes per day. You couldn't do it because these grapes were quite, and they had to be black seeded grapes. We got them from a supplier who was getting them from South Africa. So these were African grapes they were quite small. They were called Black Pearl, and each grape was quite small, and it was jam-packed with seeds. I just know, because since then when I've tried to find these grapes, none of us can find them. So I just know that the ancestors really had our backs, and they were packed jam full of seeds. So I was saying to Darren, yeah, there's 50 plus of us doing that. And he mentioned about cleansing. I said, well, what does that mean? What do we do? He said, I have some cleansers, some herbs that you would have needed to use, because you've really done it the hard way. You've had the grapes doing 2 things at the same time. Instead of just healing you, it's also been cleansing you at the same time. You'd have got even better results had you done some cleansing first of all. So I invited him down to bring cleansers for us all. 50 plus of us packed into that small space, and he got there by about 7:30, coming all the way from Walthamstow to Brixton by tube. And we were so engrossed in, you know, the exchanges, what he was sharing with us and what we were sharing with him about our experience. He was very receptive. That by the time he looked at his watch, he said, I'm going to miss my last train if I don't leave now. And that's where that journey began with Darren, of him coming to help us, selling us that first batch of deep cleansers, and then putting us on a 12-week program that we did with him. And he would come to the shop that I was at, the space I was at. Couldn't really accommodate 55 of us, so we had to do it in 2 batches. So every Tuesday and Thursday he would come, and he trained me from the very beginning. I sat in on the consultations with everybody, went through the program myself quite a few times, and that's how I really began on this journey as a naturopath.